A scorching field, a dead animal, a hospital bed. In the space of just a few weeks, Jeremy Clarkson has gone through more than most farmers face in a decade. A heat wave torching his harvest, a disease outbreak locking down his cattle, and a health scare that put his own life on the line. This isn't a script from Clarkson's Farm Season 6. This is what's actually been happening at Diddley Squat right now. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why even Britain's most famously unshakable presenter admitted, in his own words, that farming this year has simply not been enjoyable. Stick around, because the way this story ends might genuinely save someone watching this video. This past weekend, temperatures at Chipping Norton in Oxfordshire, home to Diddley Squat Farm, pushed close to 29 degrees Celsius. For most people, that's a nice weekend. For a working arable farm already stretched thin by a difficult few years, it was the final straw on this year's harvest. Clarkson didn't sugarcoat it. He posted a screenshot of the BBC weather forecast on Instagram, and instead of a hopeful caption, he essentially told fans the harvest was already ruined, and that there wasn't much left to do except try to enjoy what remained of the season. It was blunt, a little dark, and exactly the kind of unfiltered honesty that's made his farming diaries so different from every polished agricultural PR campaign you've ever seen. And the comments underneath weren't just fans being sympathetic for the sake of it. One follower pointed out something bigger than Diddley Squat, that the repeated heat waves battering British farms aren't a one-off inconvenience anymore. They're becoming a pattern, and that pattern is going to hit food production and prices for everyone, not just farmers. This is actually the quiet, uncomfortable through line of Clarkson's Farm as a series. It was never really meant to be a comedy about a washed-up TV presenter buying a tractor. It became, almost by accident, one of the most watched documentaries about the economics of British farming. The margins are brutal, the weather is unpredictable, and even someone with Clarkson's resources and media platform can't out-negotiate a heat wave. It's worth remembering this isn't even the first time extreme heat has cost him. Diddley Squat has lost livestock to scorching UK summers before, and Clarkson has previously written candidly about how owning animals through those conditions changed the way he thinks about farming altogether. So when he says the harvest is already gone, it's not a throwaway line for engagement. It's a farmer doing the math in real time and not liking the answer. But the heat wasn't the only crisis hitting the farm this summer. Just days before the heatwave update, Clarkson delivered a very different kind of bad news. Diddley Squat's herd had been hit with bovine tuberculosis. For anyone unfamiliar with how serious that is in UK farming, this isn't a minor inconvenience. Once a herd tests positive, the entire farm goes into lockdown. No buying cattle, no selling cattle. And because of how the testing cycle works, that lockdown doesn't lift for months, since farms have to wait roughly 2 months before they're even allowed to retest. Clarkson described the moment the vet delivered the news as the kind of thing you become numb to after years of routine biosecurity checks, until suddenly it's not routine anymore, and one of the animals fails the test right in front of you. He didn't hide how hard it hit him, calling the whole situation dreadful and admitting that, this particular week, farming just wasn't something he was enjoying. There was a human cost buried in this story too. One of the infected cows was pregnant with twins, and under the rules, an infected animal has to be culled, pregnancy or not. Fans of the show also held their breath over Endgame, the Aberdeen Angus bull who's become something of a fan favorite across the series, after his own results initially came back inconclusive. And as if that wasn't enough for 1 week, Clarkson also revealed that one of 11 newborn puppies on the farm had died overnight. A loss he clarified wasn't connected to the TB outbreak, but which landed at almost exactly the same moment, compounding an already brutal stretch. The one piece of good news in all of this: the Diddley Squat farm shop stayed open throughout. The business side of the operation kept moving even while the farming side was in crisis. which, if you've watched the show, is basically the entire plot of every season condensed into one sentence. Something is always falling apart, and somehow the shop still opens on Saturday morning. If you're new to the channel, this is genuinely why millions of people who have zero interest in farming still watch this show. It's not really about crops and cows. It's about a very stubborn man refusing to give up no matter what gets thrown at him. And nothing tested that stubbornness more than what came next. Because underneath the heatwave and the TB lockdown, there was a much bigger story quietly unfolding, one about Clarkson himself. During the finale of Clarkson's Farm Season 5, in a moment nobody watching was prepared for, Clarkson revealed from a hospital bed that he'd been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Surgeons had removed part of his prostate. He signed off the episode not knowing for certain how things would go, telling viewers that if the treatment worked, he'd see them for Season 6, and if it didn't, he wouldn't. It's a rare thing to watch a public figure be that direct about their own mortality on camera, without the usual PR softening. Thankfully, the story had a turn nobody wanted to admit they were nervously waiting for. Days later, Clarkson resurfaced on Instagram, confirming he was, in his words, perfectly fine, and using the moment to announce that Clarkson's farm had officially been renewed for a 6th season. But he didn't stop at good news. He turned the entire moment into a public health message. He explained that the cancer had been caught early purely because he'd gotten tested, and he pushed back directly against the excuse a lot of men use to avoid prostate checks, the fear of an invasive physical exam. Clarkson pointed out that modern testing is often as simple as a blood test, and he didn't hold back in urging men, especially those avoiding the doctor out of embarrassment or fear, to just get checked. This wasn't the first time he'd talked about this either. In earlier Sunday Times columns, Clarkson had already written about losing too many friends to prostate cancer over the years, and about how a few uncomfortable minutes at a doctor's office is a small price to pay for the alternative. What's different now is that he's no longer speaking about friends. He's speaking from direct experience, as someone who caught it early and is still here to talk about it. And the ripple effect of celebrities doing this publicly is measurable, not just symbolic. When other UK broadcasters have gone public with similar diagnoses in the past, health charities have reported enormous spikes in people using online risk-checking tools within days of the story breaking, sometimes a tenfold increase in a single week. Clarkson, whether he intended to or not, just added his voice and his enormous platform to that same effect. So here's Diddley Squat Farm in the summer of 2026, a harvest scorched by heat, a herd locked down by disease, and the man at the center of it all walking away from a cancer diagnosis, determined to turn his scariest moment into a warning other people can actually act on. It's easy to watch Clarkson's farm for the tractors crashing into gateposts and the arguments with Caleb. But this summer is a reminder of what the show has quietly always been about, how fragile even the biggest, most well-funded farm in Britain really is, and how quickly life can throw 3 completely unrelated crises at one man in the space of a few weeks. If this video gave you even one reason to book that checkup you've been putting off, that's genuinely more important than anything happening with the harvest. Drop a comment letting us know what you think Season 6 needs to show us next. And if you want the full breakdown of everything coming in the new season, that video is linked right here.